Good afternoon, students. Today we are going to discuss about the complex component services under the fourth unit. The chapter title is Building .NET Managed Components for Complex. We already know about the basic concept of managed code, components, etc. in the last session. Here we are going to briefly discuss about the complex component services. What is complex component services? Complex is a technology. It is a technology that is used by the .NET framework to make the application very robust. This is the technology which are developed and also the predecessor to the .NET framework. Here from the next slide onwards, we are going to see how the complex component services fits into the .NET framework arena. Okay. First we are going to discuss about the overview of COM. COM stands for Component Object Model. Why it is designed? Why it was designed? It was designed to address the shortcomings of conventional object-oriented programming languages like C++ and traditional binary software distribution of code. That is, there are some drawbacks on developing applications using object-oriented programming languages like C++. To overcome that problems, we shift into the component object model. Also, it is very helpful for developing applications using .NET framework. What is COM objects? It is nothing but just an object used in our C++ Java classes. Okay. It defines how the objects are interact with other programs at the basic level. That is, basic level means, that is binary level, that means how they communicate with all the methods and member variables of the class which are already built in as an object. Got it? COM objects are just like our objects in the class. It helps to how the objects are interact with the members, that is all the members and methods and member variables of the class. This COM is the first methodology to address object-oriented software reuse. We studied it in the inheritance concept in C++ and Java. What is the purpose of inheritance? Reusability of code. So here COM is the first methodology to address the object-oriented software reuse. It gave a great success in commercial industry. Many of the software vendors provide COM objects to perform a wide range of tasks, from email to image processing. For example, in our mobile application, in our for our Samsung mobile, there is many applications are used in Samsung application. Some of the services like weather forecasting, timer, clock. These are some of the applications which are used by Samsung as a component object. COM is also useful for creating components called business object. What is mean by business object? It is nothing but to perform commercial purpose. These business objects are tied to database tables. It is move around the database according to the business rules implemented in the COM object. Business rules means when we click the submit button, what are the rules written backside of the submit button? While clicking the submit button, all the fields in the screen are stored in the backend of the application. Backend means the database, backend server, that is database of the application. Got it? That is the business logic. Next, there is a software which are used for transaction. That is the name of the software is Microsoft Transaction Server, which is used to manage the transaction between the objects. Got it, students? A software service named as Microsoft Transaction Server, MTS. It is an important one word. What MTS stands for? Microsoft Transaction Server, which is used to manage all the transactions performed between the objects in component object model. Got it? Next, the overview of transaction. What is meant by transaction? Just imagine your money transaction in ATM or through online using Phone Pay, Google Pay, Paytm, etc. What is that? What are the transaction going on? Transferring account from one account to another account. Just borrow and lending money, or paying bills, or recharging mobile phones, or DTH, etc. These are all the transactions performed in the database. Just like the normal transaction, there is some rules, some protocols are there. Each and every transaction must confirm or satisfy the ACID property. ACID property. ACID stands for A for atomicity, C for consistency, I for isolation, and D for durability. These principles must be satisfied by each and every applications. If any one of these principles are not followed by any application, it will be failure. That applications must be a failure application. So each and every applications must satisfy all these four properties. What are the properties? Atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. Okay. The overview of transaction. The success or failure of the transaction depends on whether or not all the smaller steps are completed successfully. For example, account holder X, account holder Y. Account holder X needs to transfer ₹1000 to account holder Y. While the account holder X transferring 1000 rupees to account holder B, in that time there may be an system failure or power failure, anything else. What happens there? The 1000 rupees shouldn't be debited from account holder X, and also should not be credited in the account holder Y's account. Got it? That is the step. A transaction is committed when all steps have succeeded. When all steps are successfully completed, after that only it will permanently updated in the database. A failure transaction causes a rollback to occur. You know about the rollback and commit command. You may study it from RDBMS itself in your last semester. Commit means it is a command in RDBMS that the changes are permanently updated. The changes are stored permanently in the database. Rollback means undo the updations from the database. Once committed, we can't undo that operation. Once rollback, we can undo the operation. Got it, students? Next, the transaction confirm the ACID properties. What are the acronym for ACID property is? ACID. A stands for atomicity, C stands for consistency, I stands for isolation, and D stands for durability. Got it? Next, what is meant by atomicity? It means that either the operation that the component performs is completely successful, or the data that the component operates on does not change at all. That means either the component performs completely successful or does not do any changes at all. Either it should be successful or it must be failed. Okay, atomicity means that either the operation that the components perform is completely successful, otherwise the operation does not do any changes at all. Got it? Next, consistency. It deals with preserving the system state in the case of a transaction failure. It must be, the state must be static during the transaction successful or during the transaction failure. Got it? Consistency deals with preserving the system states in case of a failure. Next, isolation. Isolation means that a transaction acts as though it has complete control of the system. The process keeps the system state consistent. Example, two components execute at the same time that operate on the same data can compromise the integrity of the system. If two individual operations performed on the same data it must be integrate the two operations must be integrate with each other to process the same data. Durability, that is time, how long the transaction will stand off. Durability is the ability of a system to return to any state that was present before the execution of a transaction. Example. Here is an example that will implement the ACID property of a transaction. Here I take an example as a bank transfer. The first step is get the amount to be transferred and check the source account for the sufficient funds. என்னென்னா எவ்வளோ அமௌண்ட் ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணணுங்கிற அமௌண்ட்டை நம்ம வாங்குகிறோம், அந்த அமௌண்ட் அந்த அக்கௌண்ட்டில் இருக்கா. இப்போ நானே ஒரு எக்ஸுங்கிற பர்சனுக்கு நான் அமௌண்ட் ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணுறேன், ஆன்லைன் ஃபோன்பே மூலமாக ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணுறேன்னா 1000 rupees ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணுறேன். ஃபஸ்ட் அது என்ன செக் பண்ணோம், என்னுடைய அக்கௌண்ட்டில் 1000 rupees இருக்கா அப்படின்னு செக் பண்ணணும். அப்படி இருந்துச்சுன்னா டிடெக்ட் த ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் அமௌண்ட் ஃப்ரம் த சோர்ஸ் அக்கௌண்ட். என்னுடைய அக்கௌண்ட்லேருந்து அந்த அமௌண்ட்டை என்ன பண்ணிக்கும், ரெடியூஸ் பண்ணிக்கும், டெபிட் பண்ணும், டிடெக்ட் பண்ணும், டெபிட் பண்ணும். Get the balance of the destination account and add the amount to be transferred to the balance. அப்புறமா அந்த டெஸ்டினேஷன் அக்கௌண்ட்டில் போய் என்ன ஆகும், அமௌண்ட் கிரெடிட் ஆகும். இப்போ டெஸ்டினேஷன் அக்கௌண்ட்டில் உள்ள நியூ பேலன்ஸ் என்ன ஆகிடும், அப்டேட் ஆகிடும். இதுதான். அதே மாதிரி சென்டருடைய அக்கௌண்ட்லேயும் பேலன்ஸ் அப்டேட் ஆகிடும். நெக்ஸ்ட் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஆட்டோமேட்டிக் ட்ரான்சாக்ஷன். ரெண்டு ட்ரான்சாக்ஷன் இருக்குது, ஒன்று மேனுவல் ட்ரான்சாக்ஷன், இன்னொன்று ஆட்டோமேட்டிக் ட்ரான்சாக்ஷன். இந்த மேனுவல் ட்ரான்சாக்ஷன் ஆட்டோமேட்டிக் ட்ரான்சாக்ஷன், மேனுவல் ட்ரான்சாக்ஷனுக்கும் ஆட்டோமேட்டிக் ட்ரான்சாக்ஷனுக்கும் உள்ள வித்தியாசம் என்ன அப்படின்னா, இப்போ மேனுவல் ட்ரான்சாக்ஷன்னா அந்த டேட்டா பேஸ் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் சிஸ்டத்தால் கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணுறது தான் மேனுவல் ட்ரான்சாக்ஷன். ஆட்டோமேட்டிக் ட்ரான்சாக்ஷன்னா டேட்டாபேஸ் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் சிஸ்டத்துக்கு எக்ஸ்டர்னலாக கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணுறது தான் அதாவது அந்த சிஸ்டம் டேட்டாபேஸ் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் சிஸ்டமில் அந்த அப்ளிகேஷன் கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணுறது தான் ஆட்டோமேட்டிக் ட்ரான்சாக்ஷன். ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள், இப்போ ஒரு பேங்க்குக்கும் ஒரு அப்ளிகேஷன் வச்சுருப்பாங்க. இப்போ நான் என்னுடைய பேங்க் அக்கௌண்ட்லேருந்து என்னுடைய டெபிட் கார்டு மூலமாக நான் ஃப்ளிப்கார்ட்டில் பர்ச்சேஸ் பண்ணுறேன். பர்ச்சேஸ் பண்ணும்போது எனக்கு இப்போ அக்கௌண்ட்டில் என்னுடைய டெபிட் கார்டில் பேலன்ஸ் இல்லை அப்படின்னா அங்கே என்ன பண்ண முடியாது, எனக்கு பர்ச்சேஸ் பண்ண முடியாது. இதுதான் ஆட்டோமேட்டிக் ட்ரான்சாக்ஷன். அப்போ இதை கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணுறது யார், ஃப்ளிப்கார்ட் டேட்டாபேஸ் கிடையாது. இதை கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணுறது எந்த டேட்டாபேஸ், பேங்கில் இருக்கக்கூடிய டேட்டாபேஸ். ஆனால் நான் இப்போ யூஸ் பண்ணக்கூடிய அப்ளிகேஷன் எந்த அப்ளிகேஷன் யூஸ் பண்ணிகிட்ருக்கேன், ஃப்ளிப்கார்ட் அப்ளிகேஷன் யூஸ் பண்ணிகிட்ருக்கேன். காட் இட்? அதுதான் ஆட்டோமேட்டிக் ட்ரான்சாக்ஷன். Okay, many database system include internal support for transaction. Such database system contains native command to begin, abort and commit transaction. These are the transaction performed in database management system. This way, several updates to database data can be made as a group, and in the event of a failure, they can undergo. Using a database internal transaction processing system is referred to as manual transaction processing. That means that database transactions are controlled with the help of the database's internal command means that transaction is called manual transaction processing. Automatic transactions differ from manual transaction because automatic transactions are controlled by a system external to the database management system. Got it? The earlier version of Windows provide automatic transaction system using Microsoft Transaction Server. Which server helps to perform an automatic transaction? Yeah, Microsoft Transaction Server. Got it, students? Next, how the Microsoft transaction works. It works by coordinating the database update made by components grouped into a logical unit called a package. What is meant by MTS package? It will defines the boundary of the transaction. Each component of the package participates in the transaction. After a component performs a piece of work, that means if a component successfully completes a transaction, it informs MTS that it is successfully performed its share of the transaction. That means it will display the message, it will transfer the message, it will that particular component successfully performed its task. If the transaction step was unsuccessful, the transaction process is aborted immediately and the MTS instruct the database to undo any changes made to the data. That means the database management system writes the rollback command. Got it? If the step was successful, the transaction continues with the other steps. If all steps execute successfully, MTS commits the transaction and tells the database to commit changes to the data. Got it? Commit means if all the steps in the transactions are successfully completed, database perform the commit operation. Otherwise, it perform the rollback, that is undo the database transaction. Got it? Next, what are the applications of COM+? It offers performance improvement over MTS. COM+ component is implemented along with the MTS to improve the performance of the application. These are implementing technologies such as, what are the technologies this COM+ component implement is object pooling. What is meant by object pooling? It maintain an active set of COM component instances. Swimming pool. Swimming pool, what is meant by swimming pool? It is a stream of water which helps to swim. Just like that, what is meant by object pooling? It is a collection of objects which helps to acquire object from the pool for developing .NET Framework application. Got it? Other performance enhancing features include load balancing. Load balancing means balance the component, which distributes component instances over multiple servers. Queued components, which uses Microsoft Message Queue Server to handle requests for complex components. That means if multiple servers are under queue for acquiring object from the object pool, the complex component must enhance the feature of load balancing. That means it provides the equal priority for all the requested server. Got it? The services that were formerly provided by MTS are known as complex component services. What is the service provided by MTS, Microsoft Transaction Server? Complex component services. It is nothing but works in a similar manner to MTS. The packages are in the complex component object referred to as complex applications. Got it? Next, complex automatic transaction support levels. First one is disabled. No transaction services are ever loaded by complex component services. Not supported, required new. Not supported. This is the default setting of new MTS components. Supported. We may run the component inside or outside a transaction without any ill effects. Required. The component must run inside a transaction. Required new. Any new transactions, any new components need its own transaction. Next, security level in the complex component. Each and every application must need a higher security. It will provide, the complex component provide a security infrastructure for applications that uses Windows 2000 XP users and groups. It will designate which users and groups have permission to access a complex application. It is defined, this is done by defining roles for applications access. I think you may remember it in your RDBMS, that means various roles in database management. Got it? The role is nothing but setting duties performed by particular individuals. For example, the role of a librarian can locate, check out and shelf books. The person fulfilling the librarian role is permitted to perform such duties under the security policies defined for that role. An administrator is responsible for assigning users and groups to role. Who will assign the role for users and groups? Administrator. These roles are assigned to the complex applications. There is a security called role-based security. It is not only easy to implement, but it is also typically does not require programmer to work on the component to implement any security code. We can access it from the complex component object. There is no need for developing any program by the programmer. We can implement it from the complex component services. When a call is made to a component running under complex component services, it will check the user or group identity of the caller and compares it against the role assigned to the component. Based on the comparison, the call is allowed or rejected. Got it? Just our Gmail, just checking our credentials of Gmail. Credentials means login account, username and password. If I set my username and password and click sign in, it suddenly check it from the Gmail server. If it match with the server, means I can enter into the Gmail account. Otherwise, my entry will be rejected. Got it? Next, .NET classes and complex component services. It will still remain a dominant technology and it is a significant part of Windows. The architecture for .NET Managed Component was designed to take advantage of all the features. It will offer object pooling, transaction processing, security, etc. etc. This is the component and this is the concept is very important for developing web applications. Got it? Okay, students. Will we meet you on next session with a new topic. Keep study, students. Thank you.